Creating NgModules. Angular modules are called NgModules, and the module class is decorated with the NgModule decorator. The NgModules are used as containers, and they contain other feature modules, components, and other code files, and they're used in order to make your code more readable, modularized, and maintainable. So let's take a look at the anatomy of an NgModule. A typical NgModule may look like what you see here. An Angular module is defined by a class. In this example, I call it just name of module, and this class must be decorated with the NgModule decorator just right above the class definition. This NgModule decorator is a function and has a metadata object with some really important properties that describe this module. Listed here are just 5 properties. You may see in some or in most feature modules, with the exception of the bootstrap property, which is only used in the root module. So let's go over each of them. The declarations is a property that is used to list of imported components, directives, and pipes. Directives would be things like the ngIf, ngFor. Pipes we haven't talked about yet, but these are used primarily for formatting data in the template. Then the imports is used to contain a list of imported feature modules only. The exports is a list of items in the declarations and imports properties that you want to use or you want to be exported to be used by other modules. The providers, it contains a list of service providers. These are providers that will be injected into other modules or components. And examples would be like a data source, a logger for logging a user, or other functions that may not belong to any particular component but can be shared across all components. So things that will be used by the injector. And then finally, the bottom is the bootstrap, which is again the main application view, and it's only set by the root module. So let's head over to the Visual Studio Code IDE and start creating some modules. Okay, so here we are. Just make sure your app is running so we can run them and see in the browser. I'm going to go to the front end, the mean stack agency folder, into the src folder, and we're going to open the root module first. Take a look at that. So as you can see, it consists of some modules, and the name convention is really unique. So when you name your modules components, I recommend you follow the same model here. You attach the module to a module, you attach component to a component, so you can see them easily in your code. So here we have the NgModule. The class is, in this case, is called add module, and then it's decorated with this add NgModule here. And so we have the declarations. This property contains only the components, directives, and pipes. In this case, just components. The imports are here listed by all the modules that we import in this module. And then the providers, in this case, is none. And the bootstrap here is bootstrapping this add module as the root module. So you only see this in the root module. So let's go and create a module inside the about property or feature here. So as you notice, there's no module here. So I'll create one manually, and then we'll create one automatically. So I can show you 2 ways to do that. So follow the same convention. I'll add about.module.ts. Okay, so there we go. And the first thing we need to import is the NgModule class, because we need that in order to let Angular recognize the NgModule decorator. So you would do something like import, and here NgModule. And this is coming from the core. Okay, so ng core. That's from the ng core, part of the core package. And then we have the decorator, NgModule. It's a function. Okay, it takes one item, and then we decorate that with a class. So we export that right away. And again, follow the convention would be about module, and then that's just like that. There's nothing there because we're not going to do anything in here yet. So in the decorator up here, we are going to add these properties. And again, the order in here is not really important because it's all object, right? So, but usually it goes in this pattern. The first thing is the declarations. This is a list of components. Okay, I put here for components, directives, and pipes. Okay, if you want to use them, you import it right here. and we'll do that in a minute. The next one is the imports. This is only used for modules, other modules, so feature modules. And the next one is the exports. This is where you export both the items in from the declarations and the imports. Okay, so any of those you want to export, you need to put that in this list. And then we have the providers, and this will be for service providers or services. And then we're not going to put the bootstrap here because this is not a root module, so you will ignore that. Okay, so then we export that, and then we put that into the root module. So in this case, we have to go to the app module, which is the root module, and then the import will go up here, and then we need to add that to the imports here as well in order to use them. If you just import them here, and if you don't include that in the imports decorator here, the metadata, it won't be used also. So make sure you import it and then add it to the imports if it's a module, add to the declaration if it's a component. Okay, so it's a module, so I'm going to go down here. You can import it up here manually like I did before, or if you just put it right and type the module here, it will automatically import that for you above. So I have a about module. Okay, so you can see I add that here, and the module is automatically inserted for me by default, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we add that here. Now, one thing for sure, you see that here. Let me save that first. We have the about component, which is already imported and added to the declarations part. And then we're going to add an about module again. And so usually you don't want to do it twice. Okay, so what I mean is that the about module, we should import this about component to the module, and then we export the module out to this root module, and we just include it once. So you don't want to do it twice here. It's redundant, and I think the framework will yell at you if you do that. But let's go and go to the app about module, and let's import the about component to be routed through this module. So here you will put here about component, and again, if you just hit enter, it will do the import for you automatically. Pretty nice. Then you must also export it, right? If you don't export it, it's not going to be visible in the component. So so let's say this, we're going to export this as well. Okay, so we import it here, we add it to the declaration for the import, the component. This again just used for separation, right? And then we export that out. So when we export the module, it comes with it automatically, so therefore we don't have to do this again. And just to show you that if I do this, it may cause a problem, we can go into the root component template and add the about tag somewhere down here, maybe down the bottom here. Let's say right below the table we did earlier. Let's put into another div here and add the app about. Okay, so it should show the content from the about template in this location here. Okay, so let's save this and run your app if you haven't done already. But I did mine already. So if I go to the browser, and you see that it's not running here. You don't see anything here because if you press the F12, you will see a bunch of errors in the console. Okay, and I'm not going to go into detail, but it's mainly because we did it twice, right? And so to fix that, and if you go to the terminal, you will also see that as well. It says in the terminal, it tells you, it says the error occurs because the template of a component, it's if you read about it, you're probably doing twice. It will tell you that. Okay, so what we need to do is either use the module or use the component, but not both. Okay, so in our case, since we're using the module, I'm going to go ahead and remove this component here. Okay, so let's remove the about component and remove it from the declarations here. Okay, so let's save that. And if it doesn't work, you might have to rerun your app again, but let's see what it does on the browser. So let's refresh that. Okay, it still doesn't recognize, so I have to go and reset my browser, my app. So let's cancel this and run it again. Oops, clear in the ng serve. And if there are any errors, it will catch it at this point because Angular 9 uses the AOT, or the ahead of time compiler. That means it will render everything before it runs in the browser. Whereas the older versions, Angular 8 and below, they use the JIT or JIT or just-in-time version per compiler. It will compile on the browser instead. So as you can see, there's no errors here. So if we go back to the browser, and everything is back as normal, and here we have the content of the about component. Okay, so that is how we achieve this, by creating a module for the about component. So now let's go and do one more, and let's see if I go back to the back end, and I just want to see what's inside the layout here. So this is an app that we're going to build, right? It's going to have all these 5 components here. We created the about already. We have 4 more we need to create. So for this demo, we're going to create, let's say we're going to create one for the login and one component for the register. And there will be separate components, but we're going to group them together and put into a module, so that the module will contain both of these components, and then we export this module to the root module. Okay, so we'll call the module maybe like a user module to contain both of these components. So first, let's go to the terminal and create our components. I'm going to go and open a new terminal here. Go back to the front end. Main stack agency. Okay, so let's create the, let's close the back end here for now. Let's create the module component. So G for generate, C for component, and we'll call this the login. And then notice that we have all these 4 files. Okay, I don't want to use any CSS, and I don't want to use the spec either. I just want the template and the source. Okay, so when you do that, you can put some flags here. So you do a dash dash S, that's mean skip the style sheet, and then dash dash, and you say skip, and then dash tests. Okay, and that will remove the test files as well. So if you hit enter, and this should create only 2 files, the template and the source, as you can see here. Okay, so we do one more for the register. So again, if you just press the up arrow and then just fix that, change the login to register. That's what we call, right? Register, yeah. And then just hit enter. Okay, so we created 2 components in the source file. The about is already created. We have the login. As you can see, it contains only the 2 files that we needed. And so now we're going to combine both of these components into a module. And you can put the module somewhere else, anywhere else is fine. But let's say we're going to create a module in a users folder, I guess, or even in the root folder here, it doesn't really matter. And we're going to house these 2 components here, okay? So you notice I already, show you how to do this module manually. This time, we're going to do automatically using the CLI. So let's go down here, and I'll clear my console. So to create module, you follow the similar pattern. So ng and the G for generate, and a module will be the M. Okay, M for module, or if you want to type the whole word module here, that's fine too. I can leave it like that. And then the name of the module. In this case, I'm going to call it user. Okay, and then if you do like that, if you just do like that, it will create a module. It will not be attached automatically to the root module. If you want this module to automatically be imported into the module, the root module, you can add another flag like this. You can say dash dash module equal, and then you want to attach or import this module called user into the app module, which is the root module. If you have another module, let's say if you want to attach or import that into the about module, then you put the about module here. Okay, so we're going to add it to the app module, and then just hit enter. And it should create the app, the module called user. As you can see, it has a, we can close this now, has a folder created called user. Inside here, just a user module, and has some of these already, preset for us. We can add a few more here. But if you look at the app module folder file, you see that it automatically adds this user module and then insert it in its right place for us, and we're ready to use. Okay, so this time we're going to remove this login component and register. These were added automatically when you create the components. So we want to import this inside the user module and that will only use to import inside here. So you don't have this list. This list going to grow really long if you do this way. Okay, so let's remove both of these. And then we're going to remove this from the decorations as well. And this part is already done, so we can save this part. And then let's go to the user module and then double click this, make sure it's really open. And then we add that to the declarations. Okay, we're going to import in here the login component and then the register component. They are added here. And then again, we have to export them out, right? So you have to add the export property. And we add that in here, the same components. Again, the order here is not, doesn't matter here. So there you go. So we have two components are added to this single module. And then this module will export them out to the root module. And so you have one file, one line here versus two lines, right? Makes your code much leaner and modularized and more maintainable. So if we save this now, and because they are now imported into the root module via the user module, we can access them. So that means we can also go to the app component, the main component here, and we can add more of those components in here. So we can put here the app-login. I'm pretty sure that's how they are named. And we can put one more here for the app-register. Okay. So here we go. Let's save those. And I had it wrong. Okay, so let's save that and let's view in the browser. And here we go. You see that they're all working very beautifully. All right, so that's how modules are created in Angular. Now that we have learned how to create modules and components, in the next video, we'll learn how to create routes using the Angular router system.